How's your Valentine? Hope you all had a good Valentine. It's a Monday, the 15th of February, 2016. It's time for another edition of Weber This Week. As we all brace, get ready for a little snow action. I don't know, I've heard 18 forecasts this morning, 5 to 10 inches. Who knows? Supposed to start tonight, 2 to 4 overnight, and some more tomorrow. Good morning, everybody. It's a dog with you in the kennel on a chilly Monday morning. Trust you all had a great Valentine and belated happy Valentines for myself, Jim Sonacropi, and our special guest, my longtime friend Dave Barnick joins us. We were expecting Steve Churchill and Cindy Lorenzetti. Don't ask me what's going on, but they have failed to appear this morning, obviously. One of them had to go out of town or something, so we're going to try to reschedule them down the road. We'll let you know when that date will happen. Again, Steve Churchill, Cindy Lorenzetti, our original guest. We brought our buddy Dave Barnick in from good old Ovid, New York. And David, thanks for coming in, and good morning to you.
I don't mind coming off the bench last minute, and I'm thinking two things. How far I've fallen, that this is the highlight of my day, but how fortunate I am is I'm driving from Ovid. It's 15 degrees, which is warmer than yesterday.
Right.
But I see a young man in the fields on a horse, Amish young man, horse-drawn apparatus, plowing the fields. And I'm like, I got a heated seat.
Gotta love it.
You know, I'm warm and comfortable. Good to be here.
Well, it's good to have you, Dave. And, of course, anyone who has seen Dave Barnick on the broadcast vehicle of FingerLakes1.com the last few weeks, when I saw him interviewed at halftime a few weeks ago, he reminded me of a poor imitation of Grizzly Adams, sporting a beard, and not a very well manicured beard, I might add. And then he got rid of the beard and went to the mustache route, and today he is clean cut and ready to roll. And what prompted you, David, to go that route for a while?
Well, I had, as many of you know, of course, my knee replaced. And when you're unable to, I could have shaved, but
right.
I had nothing much going on. So I said, I'll just go a few weeks. But my Valentine, number one, did not like it. So I knew that was going to be short-lived. And number two, I wanted to be clean cut as I made my announcement today to support for president the candidacy of Francis Underwood.
I love that. By the way,
he's my guy for president.
I might add, myself and Mary finally subscribed to Netflix. We were holding out for a while. We had heard about the House of Cards. I could never understand how Kevin Spacey got this award every year for Best Actor. We got the subscription. We have watched all 3 seasons. I see they're starting up again March 4th for the new season. And truly, David, Francis Underwood is by far the greatest show I've ever seen. Phenomenal program.
Those first 6, 7 episodes blow you away.
Phenomenal.
And, of course, you could go to the comedy route and take the Republican candidates instead, but I'll stick with Francis J. Underwood.
All right, we're going to talk about a multitude of subjects. One, I thought we'd start off the show by talking Section 5 basketball, as it's imminent on the forefront. Going to get started this week, weather permitting, and we thought, Jimmy, since you've been actively involved with the podcast relative to Section 5, I thought it would be nice to get our views and give our picks on who you think may advance and be the champions of each division. So are we up for that?
Yeah, you want to take it through each class? We'll just stick to the Wayne Finger Lakes teams.
Let's do that.
So, we can take a look here at A2, I guess, to start things off. And let's see here.
There we go.
Yeah, you got Geneva and Wayne in there, but, of course, neither team has much of a shot this year to probably get I think Wayne will beat Greece Olympia. Mm-hmm. Geneva will have a tough time with School of the Arts, but they could win that. But it would be a real Cinderella story for either of these teams to advance. But once we get into B1, now things get interesting here. Yeah. As you can see there, with 5 Wayne Finger Lakes teams in the bracket and 4 of the 5 in the bottom half, meaning only Hornell is not a Finger Lakes East team down there. So,
David, I watched Newark a couple of times because my granddaughters, as you know, Izzy is a cheerleader. I watched them play Geneva a couple weeks ago. I love their guard play. I think they're going to be tough. Your opinion on that division?
I think Newark has the best shot of the Finger Lakes teams. Pelmac's kind of a question mark, a little bit like Minders, which we'll get to. Mm-hmm. The thing that amazes me on that whole bracket is how Dundee surprised Penn Yan the other night.
I know. Yeah.
Which I think is a testimony to the nice structure and program and coaching they have at Dundee.
Yeah, that really ends up, throwing things off in the Finger Lakes West, which had a three-way tie, including Marcus Whitman winning their first league championship ever, according to their Twitter account. Mm-hmm. So, congratulations to Marcus Whitman, sharing the title with Naples and Bloomfield. And, in that B1 bracket, Palmac really got a raw deal. They draw Leadership Academy, private school, which probably could be competitive up in the A's. But they get them at home. So, hoping Palmac can pull that one off. But at that bottom of the bracket, it would be shocking if not at least one of those Finger Lakes teams. Probably Newark isn't in the Blue Cross Arena for the finals. So, if we kick it over now to B2, this is one that has a couple of darling teams of ours. Let me get it up here. There we go. North Rose Wolcott.
Oh, yeah. I love that team. I love the consistency. I love the fact you got Gersner, you got Hoyt, you got Norris. And even, David, when Norris scores 2 to 4 points a couple of times this year, North Rose Wolcott has won by 15. That, to me, tells you there's other players besides that young man. And I love that team. I just love the way they play together.
Well, as you know from doing games over the years, I find even though you root for your so-called home teams,
sure,
you find yourself, if you see certain teams, really liking the teams,
right,
and pulling for those teams, and the unselfishness that is promoted and demonstrated on the teamwork of that team, which has several volleyball players, by the way, which I learned they prefer tapping the ball to each other sometimes instead of passing it. But they're a team that's easy to get behind and root for. I don't know if they'll win the whole thing or not. I think they have some flaws, but I really like their effort, their chemistry, their camaraderie. I hope they go the distance.
Jimmy, you like them too?
Yeah, I like North Rose Wolcott. Their biggest weakness is their lack of depth.
Right.
So foul trouble could get them in trouble, and just one game and you're done here. But they've been tested. Another first-time league champ. Since the merger of the two schools, they've never won the Wayne County title. Last 2 years, Red Creek last year, North Rose Wolcott this year, winning Wayne County for the first time. So yeah, they're champions. And if you see in that bracket there, they.
Although
there's a mistake here. 8 and 7 need to swap. See that? Okay. RCMCS is actually 7 seed. Danville's 8 seed, so that's easier for North Rose Wolcott. They'll get by that first round game 100%.
Sure.
And then Attica's tough. They beat Wayne. Marcus Whitman, if Marcus Whitman was to beat Attica, that would be a rematch of the incredible game last year in Waterloo between North Rose and Whitman that North Rose won. And if North Rose gets to the championship, if it's against the Minders, they'll have a distinct advantage because they were there last year. When you come to the Blue Cross Arena for the first time as a player, it's just different. So North Rose will know what to expect. But Wellsville beat them last year, and so if Wellsville advances, they won't have that advantage anymore. But they will have revenge on their mind. But it's on the bottom half. Minders has had a good enough team, I think, the last couple of years to get to the Blue Cross, and they've fallen short. So a little bit of pressure on Coach Ciotti this year, I think, to get to the Blue Cross Arena. They'll have to win 2 games, and one of them will be probably against a tough RCMCS team, a real tough draw as a 7 seed. And then Wellsville has maybe the best player in all this bracket, and that includes Tyler Norris and Liam Ebert, the point guard for Wellsville, who's the school's all-time leading soccer and basketball scorer. So he knows how to win, and this is we all would love to see Minders and North Rose Wolcott.
That'd be an awesome game.
It might be tough for Minders and for North Rose, So we'll see. We'll see what the semifinals look like. This time next week we'll know what those semifinals look like.
And I should recount that just a little bit. I'm rooting for Minders and North Rose Wolcott, and Minders very capable if they are on their A game. They can beat a lot of very good teams.
Does Minders have to make threes, though, to be competitive?
Generally speaking, but I don't know. I've seen them win both ways.
Yeah, because their defense is pretty strong. They win a lot of games in the 40s, so it's tough. And there's that whole conversation of what's better, the top of the Wayne County League or the top of the Finger Lakes East, and in our latest power rankings that we released yesterday on the Upstate Hoops podcast, 3 of the top 5 were Wayne County teams. And that's not what it looked like in the beginning of the season. The beginning of the season, North Rose was the only Wayne County team in the top 5. And, of course, as the whole season plays out, now there's 3. So I think we generally undervalue the top of the Wayne County League.
I think the one difference, and Harold, I think you'll probably agree, is in years past, year after year after year, we looked at the Wayne County teams as predominantly being offensive, run-and-gun teams.
Right.
And I think, again, that North Rose Wolcott team, they play defense very hard. That's one of their strong points.
Definitely well-rounded.
Yeah, and by the way, just a backdrop story that Dave talked about before I went on the air this morning. This is the Dog along with Dave Barnick and Jim Senecropi. We're talking sports. We're talking Section 5. But as I get older, I get more frustrated with TV commercials. I would love to get a mechanism where I don't ever see a commercial on TV. I'm reminded of one that really aggravates me, and as the Moore family plugging Time Warner. The reason I bring that up is because we can talk about the Hoyt family over at North Rose Wolcott, a unique family. You have the mom, Kathy, as the AD. You have her husband, Brian, as the head coach. You have the player, a sensational player, in Garrett Hoyt. And David pointed out something interesting. All the years I've been broadcasting and brought David along in 1975, when we do games, we usually do post-game interviews. And we always pick the player, in our view, that has been outstanding. And that player could be repeated several times, David, in our broadcasting careers. But David brought up a good point. David, we were approaching a player recently and tell the story about that he had already been on, and Kathy thought the AD maybe we should pick somebody else and spread the wealth.
Himself. And Jim had told me
I
in
thought
the prior
that was
game,
pretty neat.
The player said, I've
Tyler
already been
Norris.
on.
That is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I said, Tyler, come on, we need you for the post game, and he said, I've already been on. Why don't you get one of my teammates? So we got Luke Gerstner, and that ended up being great because Gerstner is a key component for that team, and he's the school valedictorian as well.
They adopt that area of the game. They genuinely seem to enjoy making great passes as much as they do scoring individually.
But a class move, I've never seen that before, where they don't want the spectacular coverage of getting interviewed. Most times people want to get interviewed, but they want to spread the wealth over there. And another thing about North Rose Wolcott that is dear to my heart, even though Jim gave me a press pass, I don't have to pay to get in these games, or I would just find a way to sneak in the back door. That's the only gymnasium I have ever been to. And I started broadcasting sports, as we all know, in 1970. It's the first time I have ever been to a gym where there's no charge. Nothing. And, Jim, I don't think you've ever been to a high school gym where they don't charge to get in. And North Rose Wolcott, I believe, unless David can prove me wrong, it's the first one I've ever seen where it's free to get in. I like that.
I know you try to get in free everywhere.
I would have found a way to get in for free. I would have sat out in a car and Jim would have got me escorted in with his equipment or something.
I asked Kathy Hoyt about that.
Pretty neat.
She said that, a lot of these games, people are in from out of town, and a lot of these families have 4 or 5 kids, and so you shouldn't have to pay $10, $15 to take them to the game if they want to come to the game. And I think that across all the schools, that if you're a student, you should absolutely not have to pay. That's your school. You're going to see your team and your peers. The student shouldn't have to pay. I don't mind adults paying. It's usually $2-3. Who cares?
I agree.
But for students to have to pay to go to their own gym to see their own team, I don't think that's a good idea.
Their popcorn is exceptional as well.
Great popcorn at the concessions.
So kudos to North Rose Wolcott and Kathy Hoyt. And let's continue. We'll continue our look.
Want to take a break before we go to the next one?
Let's take a break. We'll probably go a few minutes late because we've got other topics to talk about. But let's go to a break, and then we'll come back with more of the Section 5 coverage. And plus, there's a few more topics I want to get into the guys. Cayuga Lake National Bank. Visit Bill Ryan and his team for all of your banking needs. Offices in Union Springs and Aurora, a fine sponsor of this show for over 30 years. DA Liquor on Bridge Street in Seneca Falls. Amy Padula and her team will find the right spirit for you every time. When you stop in, tell Amy the dog sent you. Steve Wadhams and Wadhams Enterprises, your local employer of choice. Proud supporter of Weber This Week and local athletics. Fill out an application at wadhams.com. The Good Hotel welcomes you to come out and enjoy the revitalization of this historic downtown Seneca Falls landmark. Every Wednesday is Ladies' Night with special price drinks and half-price appetizers. Learn more at thegouldhotel.com. The Omen Theater on William Street in Lyons. See what's playing this week at omentheater.com. Located off New York State Thruway Exit 41, the McGee Diner has earned their reputation as a popular family restaurant, serving country, fresh, home-cooked meals daily. Stop in for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and check out their menu at mcgeediner.com. The Seneca Falls Country Club, awesome 18-hole layout, open to the public, and a 12-month payment plan for members. Come try to par the par 416, the toughest hole in central New York. Check out SenecaFallsCountryClub.com. And the Newark Pilots of the Perfect Game Collegiate Baseball League, a minor league team with a major league ballpark. Season ticket packages available at NewarkPilots.com. And the Wilson Press in Seneca Falls. My good pal Rich Rickey and his team can handle all of your printing and mailing needs. Visit them online at wpress.com. Rich Rickey and Wilson Press, a fine sponsor of Weber This Week. We're back. I want to thank all our great sponsors, and I certainly want to thank our buddy Gary Schlegel out at the McGee Diner. Brand new sponsor came on a week or so ago. Nice to have McGee on as a sponsor of the Weber Show. Well, gentlemen, let's continue our Section 5 look, Jimmy, if we could, and then we get through that. We can go through some other topics that we want to get into. Okay, what do you got here?
Looking
C1.
there at C1,
baby.
And there's tons of teams in here, Wayne County teams,
Right.
and a couple of West teams. Actually, there's one West team, but the top of the bracket, ER, number one, a little bit overshadowed by North Rose. They're the only team to beat North Rose this year, and just one game behind North Rose. And the difference between the one-loss Cougars and the two-loss Bombers is that Clyde beat East Rochester, and there you see Clyde in the same half of the bracket as ER. And World of Inquiry is a tough team in there. Another one of the private charter Catholic schools that might pose a problem for East Rochester. Pembroke might pose a little difficulty for Clyde, but for the most part, I'd expect to see those two teams in the semifinals on February 22nd. And then the bottom half is just a bunch of teams, none of them favorites, but
Right.
I do like 7-seed Red Creek, and my real deep sleeper in this is number 11 Sodus.
The Spartans.
I think they're a tough 11 seed. They're playing better now. They lost one of their best players midway through the season. They've recovered. They got a great shooter in Danny Johnson. Kenny Comer can score, as we saw firsthand when they played North Rose. And Bloomfield's the Finger Lakes West champ, but I think this is, I think the Finger Lakes West is going to be exposed for the most part in sectionals. I don't think that there's any West teams, including Naples and D1, are going to make much of a run. But I could be wrong. Who do you guys like here?
I'm going with a chalk favorite, ER.
Of the teams on there, I want to say two things, maybe more, but I like Clyde Savannah, and I like Clyde Savannah. I expected them to improve. I love the job Timmy Jackson does with that team, and they are dangerous. But I agree with you. Bloomfield just got by a pretty mediocre South Seneca team, and they only scored, but they beat them by 2, and they only scored 40 points doing it.
I know.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of indicative of where the West boys are.
And the same team went and beat Naples to secure the title. A couple weeks later. So,
but before we go too far, just going back to a game at Minders a week or so ago, by far my best night at a ball game. Loving the crowd.
Oh yeah.
The ability, and I want to hats off to the Minders. They allow the crowd to be fans.
Yeah,
they allow them to make noise.
That's what I like.
I go to some of these Gestapo-like monitors at some of these schools.
I know.
Who don't, they expect it to be treated like it's Augusta National.
I agree.
And let the kids, and they wonder why more kids don't go to some of these places. Well, if they yell, that place was rocking during foul shots, trying to disrupt each team.
For both the girls and the boys games, it was a great atmosphere.
Fun. It was like it always had been in big games.
Geneva in their boys game, they do it. They do the pounding of the feet on the floor.
as long as they're not swearing,
No.
throwing things, being obnoxious.
Yeah.
You're
I agree
there to
with you.
yell, have some fun.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So I want to get that in there.
I agree.
Okay, so let's take a look at C3, or C2, excuse me. And you see there that there's your Falcons, Dave,
Yep.
at 12 seed. And there's another team, and I caught a lot of flack for this on the Upstate Hoops podcast, but they're a deep sleeper of mine. I think that they could get to the semifinals. I don't know if they could beat a North Star Christian, but they had a transfer from Long Island. Last name's Mercado.
Yeah, he's not great, but he contributes.
Yeah.
He's young, and their team has had a good final month of the regular season. They definitely have improved.
Yeah.
And as I had texted the guys the other day, I see, not this year, but in 2 years, a 12 to 14 win team at South Seneca.
Yeah, of course, this Lincoln Beckman Lowe's last year, so he'd like to do something this year. And I think Campbell Savone is a pretty weak 5 seed. The Steuben County League is way down this year. They won the Steuben County tournament, but unfortunately, South Seneca will have to travel. But I think that they could beat that. And then if they face Dundee, there's a familiar foe for them.
Exactly.
And Dundee, not even one of the 3 teams that tied for the West title. They were 4th place, 1 game back. Dundee would be favored, but I can see South Seneca, potentially winning that one. I think they'd have trouble once they ran up against a North Star Christian or maybe a Cuba Rushford. And then down at the bottom, poor Lions at the 11 seed. Just 1 year ago, they were in Glens Falls for the state Final Four. But with that being said, they got to drive 2.5 hours to play Boulevard Richburg, and I like the Lions in that game. And Perry's not as strong as they traditionally are, and Lions is getting better. Lions started out 1-8.
Yep.
And in the since 2016, they're 6-5.
Yeah.
So getting better. The big man Almel needs to get something done there for him.
And
But
Justice, a very impressive young man at the point.
freshman.
Justice
Zacatech.
Smith. But Jack DePaul always used to say it's a very quick drop from the penthouse to the outhouse.
Yep.
Yep, that's right. We can go real quick now and just take a look at the D classes, and then we'll have run the gamut. You got Honeoye and Naples in there. Naples beat Jasper Trousburg twice this year, so I expect them to advance. But then I think they're going to have trouble with an athletic Mount Morris team. And, if they should get down to face Ed Orman's York team or Notre Dame Batavia, that probably will be the end of the run for the Big Green Machine this year. And then Honeoye is very unlikely to beat CG Finney, a team that beat RCMCS twice this year. So, and then quickly over here to D2. There's the Warriors of Romulus, 10 seed.
Romulus.
They got to go just as far as Lions, about 2. I think they might actually have to go into Pennsylvania to play Belfast.
Might be an overnight stay.
Coach Peisnack certainly has done a nice job with what he's had to work with there this year.
Yeah, I agree, but probably not going to happen this year for in D2. But look at a couple girls brackets real quick.
Yep.
Let's look at the Minders girls here. If I can get it up here. There we go. So the Minders girls have a North Rose Wolcott team. The girls not as good as the boys at North Rose this year. Minders should win that. There's a question of if they're going to get Heidi Miller back. But coming off a sectional title last year, Jerry Anderson could certainly do it again with this Minders girls team. And Dave, we saw him last Friday night. Great group of girls.
Yep.
Play extremely hard.
They do. And
Maddie Hillmeyer.
and speaking, what a beautiful, very nice email we got from, I think, her aunt down from Virginia, who was able to enjoy the action on Finger Lakes.
Love reading those. And then, Dave, I just wanted one more girls bracket to look at. I know you're going to want to talk about them. Is the number 1 seed, Lady Falcons.
Yay, Falcons.
First round bye. And of all the teams, boys and girls, Wayne Finger Lakes, I think, has a good chance to go beyond sectionals and into states. I don't want to put too much pressure on these girls. They're young still. But I think the South Seneca Lady Falcons could make a deep, deep run, into March this year.
I think I watched the Upstate Hoops cast, and you know who Matt Verke picked out of all the teams in Section 5, right?
Yep.
I think that is another indicator that he plans on transferring to South Seneca for have his girls playing ball there. I just want to keep, fertilizing those seeds a little bit. But South Seneca, they're blessed with a group that's been together and their entire 5 are still underclassmen. And the Shawless girls, Mackenzie Kenyon is probably the standout on that team, but the Lavarnway girl is a tremendous athlete. She must stay out of foul trouble for them to advance to the finals and maybe pull off a sectional title.
It appears we may go a few minutes late. Is that all right, Jim? We'll go a couple minutes past.
Yeah.
We got a few other topics I want to get into to get your opinion on. The Chicago Bulls had the record in the NBA with an amazing 72-10. And, of course, the speculation is the Golden State Warriors, David, who you are a great follower of the NBA, may indeed eclipse that. They are 48-4 with 30 to play. They can lose 5 more to beat the record. You think it's going to happen?
Barring unforeseen major injury, they go 12 deep.
Amazing.
The player who plays the most minutes for them is the Player of the Year, Steph Curry, who they're saying not only could get the MVP again, but really could get Most Improved Player.
That's amazing.
But he plays more minutes than any of the other guys on the team, and he only plays 34 minutes a game. In other words, he sat out a total of 4 games when you do the averaging. So they're healthy and fresh, and probably will get that record.
And many people thought that may never get beat. But way back when.
I do want to point out the Cinderella story in the East is the 9 games over 500, continually improving Boston Celtics. Love those guys and the bounty of draft picks they have, but they're not in Golden State's class.
I know that your son works for the NBA, and certainly I wish him nothing but the best, but I find it hard to watch NBA All-Star action anymore. I found it difficult last night to turn it on when David Barnick for the West team inbounded the basketball to Jimmy, also a Western player. When the Eastern
David Barnick inbounded the ball?
Yeah, you did. You did. It was a coach's decision. But when you inbounded to Jimmy Senecropi for the West and the East 5 defensive people, quote unquote, we call them defensive people, moved to the bench to get a box of Cheez-Its, and we're not on the court. 196 to 173. To me, that is insulting. That is insulting. That's not basketball. You might as well not have any defensive people on the court. It's a joke.
Only the lack of finding anything else to watch on TV had me watching even 5 minutes of that last
I didn't watch
night.
5 seconds of it.
When the skills challenge and Saturday stuff was fun.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
I did watch that.
You score 173 points and lose by 20. That's not...
No, I just can't get into it. I'm sorry.
And the other thing, I don't mind them giving some... honoring Kobe Bryant.
Yeah,
but they treat him like he was the Pope or something.
And it's too much.
It is too much.
It was just, he has his flaws too. And anyway.
All right. Well, listen, in my opinion, I want to get their opinion, Jimmy's and David's. I do watch some college basketball. I kind of get into watching Connecticut. I love to watch a dominant team play every 3 nights. Every 3 nights they play a game. What amazes me is they were playing South Carolina in South Carolina, which was a second-ranked team in the country.
The
women's college basketball. It was never a game. Brianna Stewart and the Connecticut team just took it to them, led by 24, won by 11 or 12, easily defeating. It seems, David and Jimmy, please join me in this conversation, I'm not sure if they can lose. I don't know. They got that much material. I'm saying it could happen, but I don't think it's going to happen. And what I want to go with here is a comment on Brianna Stewart, nearby Syracuse, New York. What would the SU women's program have been if she'd have stayed home?
They've been number 1 ranked. They're 22 now.
Amazing.
They would have been just as successful.
Think so?
It bothers me that she left to go to UConn as when Quentin Hillsman has such a good thing going with the girls program, because she was the cog, the locally sourced component that would have lifted Syracuse to national championship contender easily.
Well, I am more.
I love that.
I am more delighted and impressed by the Syracuse men's efforts, improvement, and the Jim Boeheim bashers, and maybe have to take a back seat for a while because they're playing ball. So I'm more excited about the Syracuse men than I am disappointed in the young lady going to Connecticut. But the question to ask...
Go ahead.
The question to ask, what's a bigger story? If they've won 61 in a row or something crazy,
like that. Amazing.
Or if Golden State breaks the NBA record.
Oh, it would be the NBA.
But here's a comment that was brought up by one of the broadcasters, Brianna Stewart again. Great.
What year is she?
Senior. Great scoring average, great assists, rebounds, etc. Freshman MVP, national championship. Sophomore, national championship, MVP, Breanna Stewart. Junior, MVP, national championship. This year, possibility, could run the table 4 for 4. The broadcaster was saying it would be hard to argue the other side of this, that she would not be considered the greatest women's college basketball player ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ever.
From
out of Syracuse, New York.
How tall a girl is she?
6'4"?
At least.
6'5"?
I think she's taller. Yeah, I think she's 6'5".
But to come out of Syracuse, New York, a little 40 mile an hour from here, to be considered possibly, if she gets the MVP and wins the title again, and they're going to be heavily favored to do both, to be the greatest player ever in women's college basketball, pretty scary thought.
That's remarkable.
Hey, let's talk. We're running a little late, but we want to get a couple things. I got to tell you something, Dave. I know you follow the Bills, and Jimmy does too, and I've never been a Bills fan. Ron White, the comic out of Dallas, Texas, who drinks the scotch on stage and smokes a pack and a half of cigarettes during each one of his performances, which is one of the funniest guys I've ever seen in my life.
Great comedian.
I went to his concert in Turning Stone, but he had a tour a few years ago, and the tour was entitled "You Can't Fix Stupid," and I reference that because of LaShawn McCoy. LaShawn McCoy, a Buffalo Bill, who got kicked out of Philadelphia by their coach, Chip Kelly, who's no longer with him. He's out in San Fran. They go to a private club. Now, David, you make millions of dollars. You know everybody's watching you. You're no doubt not paying for anything because you are a celebrity. Why he would get involved in a potential altercation with the cops, who, by the way, were not wearing uniforms.
Off-duty police.
Off-duty cops. To me, I understand, according to the reports this morning on ESPN, charges will be brought against McCoy this week. Where I'm going with this is that if charges are brought, if they're just brought, that's a 6-game minimum suspension by the NFL. 6 games, minimum, based on the new NFL policy. How stupid, David, can a person be?
It reminds me of
how stupid
Plaxico Burress carrying the gun.
Unbelievable.
And unfortunately, some of these
just dumb,
top-flight athletes think
I don't know.
Think they're more powerful and can handle everything. Frequently, things aren't their fault, but one thing that they say they need to do, and many do, is that they have security with them. They have the money to afford it, to keep them out of the actions of other people's stupidity or their own.
Right.
Jimmy, I mean, and there was a lot of speculation, a lot of criticism levied on Chip Kelly for getting rid of LaShawn McCoy, getting rid of him. And now the answer is obvious. He's a wacko. Can't fix stupid. And you look for the charges to be filed this week, according to the prosecutor's office in Philadelphia. They're supposed to come down this week. And they claim, according to the video, that McCoy was heavily involved in this. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Sad.
And in reality, many of these players are so generous with their time and commitment to charity organizations. And for this guy, you're right. Stupid and
dumb.
Alcohol sometimes can reduce the brain cells at that given moment, but we'll see how that plays out.
Well, we've gone past our allotted time. Certainly, we want to tell everybody to check out your local area high school team. Support them. It's big time. Not sure what the weather's going to do. I'm sure Jim will have it on Finger Lakes 1 if there's
We're not
issues.
even sure what we're going to do in terms of coverage yet. There's not many quarterfinal games that are very appealing.
Right.
I think Friday night we'll either try to do that. If RCMCS wins, we might do RCMCS at Minders, but there's also the winner of Waterloo and Mid Lakes plays at Newark.
Yeah.
And Leadership's at Palmac. Those are all Friday night. All the good games in the quarterfinal round are all on Friday night, so we can't do them all. Right. I wish we could. But we'll probably pick one of those, and then we'll probably be off until the following week when there's semifinal games on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Blue Cross Arena on Friday night would feature B2, C1, and C2, and then Sunday would be the B1 final if it involved a Finger Lakes East or West team.
Yeah, we remind our viewers too. Next week we have a special show. Fingers are crossed that it will come through. It has been confirmed. A few weeks ago we had, of course, the Mr. Tom Wilmot Sr., along with Brett Stevens, the co-chairman of the Lago Casino, which is underway. Believe it or not, they're even working in today, I guess. It's full scale. I had a lot of lawsuits, of course, levied against them every other day. There's a lawsuit levied against Lago. The latest one is the IDA and the way they handled their agreement with Lago. I'm not sure they're going to go very far, but we'll have to wait and see. But the business out at the Lago site, you got to go out and check it out, folks. It's amazing the amount of work they've done out that site. I took Mary out there last week. Pretty scary, all the work. They've got hundreds of people working out there. We are expected to have, we understand, well, we know for sure, Tom Wilmot Sr. has 3 boys and a girl. We understand 2 of the boys are actively involved in the business, and that, of course, is Jimmy Wilmot and Tom Wilmot Jr. Both Tom Wilmot Jr. and Jimmy Wilmot are expected to be on the Weber Show next week. So we'll let you know how that plays. We certainly know what's going on with that corporation and their ability to build that casino. We never know what something might come into the situation that might change that, but we'll keep you abreast. Right now, they're expected to be here for an interview. We look forward to talking to the sons of the owner.
That should be great. And if I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
correct me if I'm wrong, guys, all of these lawsuits,
Oh, yeah.
while we have some local names
Yep.
in the news backing them,
Yep.
the financial backing for all those lawsuits is coming, from what I understand, from what I've read, entirely from the neighboring casinos.
Not
from
Oneida,
the
the
local
Racino, yeah.
Oh, no,
individuals.
Finger Lakes Gaming and also Turning Stone.
So I'll bet all they can do is delay a game penalties, and that'll be about it.
I find it hard to believe that the judges would find in their favor, especially with all the work they've been doing out there. They've got a license. They got clear to go. It'll be interesting. And, I have no problem with opposition to the casino. We had Desiree Dolly and her husband on here last year on this show. I have no problem with other point of views, but enough already. The license has been granted. It's full scale
delay
ahead.
tactics
It's a delay
because
tactic.
for every month that the Oneidas
Yep.
are able to hold off Lago opening, theoretically the Turning Stone will make X amount more money.
Mm-hmm.
Once Lago opens, it will certainly, put a dent, at least in the short term, into their
Well, Jimmy, the
profits.
good news is they haven't stopped the progress.
And the casinos may, in my opinion, aren't the answer to all the economic woes.
I agree.
Far from it for anybody in this country. But the thing I like about it, since in general the politicians have been unwilling or unable to get tax revenues from the Native American
Right.
facilities,
Right.
let's get our share.
That's right.
Yep.
Well, David, thanks again for coming in. Appreciate it. Always good to have you here.
Yeah.
And you got one more surgery on another knee, you said?
Well,
Thank God you don't have
first I'm
4
going to
knees.
enjoy some life.
Okay.
And hopefully feel good enough to play lots of golf
Well, that's good.
with both of you guys this year.
Well, I need 3 aside, and I play from the golds because I'm over 70. Just give you those parameters before we start. I'm legal because the Seneca Falls Country Club has an unwritten rule down there, 70 or older, gold tees. Ask Marv Serafino if you don't believe me.
Marv's a tremendous player and a good friend.
I know he is. All right, guys. Thanks, Jim. And we'll look forward to having you with us next week here on the Weber Show. By the way, we are scheduled through the months, the rest of February and rest of March. We got bookings, so we'll let you know what all those look like in the next couple of weeks. By the way, if you want to come on the show, let us know. Send an email to Jimmy or send one to me. Call fingerlakes1.com. Tell us your charitable situation or you want to plug something. We're looking forward to having you on here. So, again, we open the door for you to come in and be a part of the Weber Show. So, speaking for Dave Barnick, my broadcast buddy, a longtime friend, and to Jim Senecropi, we welcome you and we wish you all a great week. Be careful of that snow coming in.